Listeners are listening to me right now, getting insecure about myself. Nice.
Instead she said, "Hi, Jason!" 1 second, you forgot to say something.
My mum met my dad. And sorry, not that far background. Okay.
Why did we decided to start with him?
So firstly, we've got this guy here.
No. Welcome to Sottosoglia, the podcast that nobody can pronounce. Welcome, Jason. Welcome. So please, Fabri, introduce the guest.
Sure. Giulia, 1 second, you forgot to say something.
I knew it. You are right. Okay, welcome.
She just had to introduce herself, nothing major. Yeah. Instead she said,
It's going to be so difficult. I need to be credible at the start. Welcome to Sottosoglia, the podcast that nobody can pronounce. I am Giulia D'Angelo.
And I am Fabrizio Tati. And with us, we have Dr. Jason Eshraghian. Thank you, Jason, for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's very cool to have you here. For those that don't know him, Jason is an assistant professor at UCSC, the University of California, Santa Cruz. And
Somewhere.
Close enough.
Somewhere.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's a surfing buddy, and he received his PhD degree from the University of Western Australia in the 2016, and since then he has been playing with spiking neural networks. I'm sure that most of the audience knows him for his very popular paper and work SNN Torch, and we are very, very happy to have him here on this podcast to talk about anything but spiking neural networks.
Dude, you catfished me. This is what I like.
No. Today, no. Okay. And I will let Giulia go on.
Yeah. So the first question would be if you can tell us a little bit about your background, if you can tell us a bit about yourself. You have this amazing introduction from Fabrizio, but tell us a little bit about your background and you.
Man, this is difficult because Fabrizio is like, no, you can't speak about spiking neural nets, and then Julia is assuming that I have a personality beyond spiking neural nets. I don't know what to do with that.
I hope.
Shit. Okay, so it all started when my mum met my dad, and was that too? Oh, okay, sorry, not that far background. Okay.
Why did we decided to start with him? Why?
Am I the first person on this?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Everything in the future will hopefully be less degenerate, and maybe straight to the point. What's my story? I don't have a story. I existed. I gained consciousness at the age of 4, and I don't remember anything before that. I don't know, man. When I was 8 years old, I liked magic tricks, but then thankfully that stopped when I was 13. Otherwise, I'd still be a virgin. And then I got really deep into filming.
Okay, you know what? In Italian, goes to the point. Like, what are you teaching when you go to the university?
You don't want to know.
Oh, you don't want to? No. Let's keep talking about magic tricks.
No.
So, firstly, we've got this guy here.
No.
So, what am I teaching? Right now, I'm teaching brain-inspired machine learning. It's a class that I introduced to UC Santa Cruz. I'm very excited about it. It's kind of split up into 2 portions. The first is software, the second is hardware. In the software part, we grind through deep learning, We use that to set up an introduction to more brain-inspired machine learning. And so obviously there's spiking neural nets in there. We do go a little bit deeper into that. So I do try and grind back propagation and everything that the deep learning world loves. But then we go a little bit further. We look at what are the alternative biologically plausible learning rules out there. So even things that are not necessarily all that practical at the moment, I try to show that. And it's a very honest course. It's not a case of, hey guys, this is the future. It's a case of, this is maybe what the brain does, and hopefully we can take advantage of it, but it's completely plausible that we'll never be able to take advantage of it given silicon constraints, etc. The second half of the course, go on.
No, maybe this is like just one of the abstractions that might work that are emulating the brain.
Yeah, no, exactly. But then I also have to be self-aware because, like, why are the students in this class? I mean, a lot of them just want a job. They want some job stability. They want to get paid. What do you do with that? And so I do have to give them a bit of a preface to the class and say, all right, so a lot of what I teach you isn't using deep learning. Having said that, you're going to learn deep learning. You're going to learn a bit more than deep learning. You're going to learn how to think like someone that does research. And then you're going to learn hardware. And, you know, there's not a huge amount of researchers that are very effective at deep learning and very effective at hardware. But once you do bring those two things together, which I think the neuromorphic community does very beautifully, then you know how to build hardware tailored for applications. You know how to build applications tailored for hardware. You got that co-design going on. So that's kind of the mentality I'm trying to get them into. And so for the hardware, we go through a tape out. So Matt then, he introduced the whole tiny tape out thing with the open source PDKs that are out there that Google used to sponsor. So you got the Sky 130 process design kit. So a lot of students come into this class without any sort of hardware background. I try to set as few prerequisites as... So for anyone listening at home, I feel like I've got to give it a bit of a preface. Right before we hit record, Julia explained to Fabrizio for at least 10 minutes, Fabrizio, I want to make sure that your audio is immaculate. It's crisp.
That's why I dropped the mic.
Not make...
That's why I dropped the mic from the desk.
We haven't even started the podcast. Like, the episode is not even started. Oh, please go on and then do the Italian thing. Go to the core. Thank you.
I just want them to catch all the Easter eggs we are putting.
Right.
It's a tactic.
Okay.
Man, I thought your podcast was called Sub-Threshold in Italian, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes. With super threshold,
yeah.
too much gain. Way too much gain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want me to just go back to this?
I let you finish, and then we can start like actually with the real podcast, because your background is interesting, but not for the podcast, because we need to get to know you. I let you finish.
Wait. So I have no idea now. Is this going to be published? Are the words that I'm saying right now published, or is this for you to get to know me? So the listeners are listening to me right now, getting insecure about myself. Nice.
And it's going to be so worse. You have no idea.
I think it's great.
Yeah. But maybe you can start with the first real question of the podcast. So this podcast is called Sottosoglia, and the actual subtitle is The Person Behind the Scientist. So we need to get to know you better.
Are you sure? You're going to regret this.
Probably not. Anyway, I hope, guys, at this point. Anyway, so the first real question that I'd like to ask you personally, and me and Fabrizio, is how are you at the moment?
Are you my therapist?
And now
how
you
am
get
I?
to respond. Yeah.
Damn. No, I'm chill. Just got to work. I got back to the States a couple of days ago, so I'm still fighting jet lag. I gave a talk at a conference about lightweight payloads in space, and none of them are neuromorphic, but they're all very interested in neuromorphic, and it was in the Canary Islands, which was beautiful.
Cool.
But I got sick, and I lost my voice straight after the keynote, and I'm very glad that I didn't lose it before the keynote. And I've got my voice back now. All is good. Ready to do some work. Pretty chill. How are you?
Okay. Okay, I'm fine, kind of fine. I'm always stressed out, but I think it's an anxiety problem. So
Well, yeah, when your co-presenter is dropping mics.
yeah, probably. I know.
And you stay
Anyway,
silent the entire time.
so I have a surprise for you, Jason.
I,
Yes.
So there we go.
I'm so scared.
La luna nera. This is so
That's
Italian,
awesome.
but okay. So these are the fearsome sottosoglia cards. So what we're going to do now is that you have some questions. Okay, so there are some questions written behind. So what I'm gonna do is that I will randomly pick one of the questions, and we will get to know you better.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay.
So how do you want me to pick the first card? Kind of randomly? First, what do you want?
I want you to pick the 7th card.
Okay.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ready?
No, but keep going.
No. How do you handle failure or setbacks?
I don't fail.
Boom.
Next.
I don't think.
I feel like this is like pseudo-inspirational, where I'm like expected to be, failure is a state of mind. You do not fail unless you tell yourself you fail. There are 3 simple steps. No, I
Go run in
Tell
the
us
morning,
about-
move to Dubai. What's the third one?
Guys, I feel the mother in the kindergarten. Shut up and tell us.
You knew what was gonna
how do
happen.
you cope with failures?
How do I cope with failure? I when I flew back to San Francisco, I sat next to this really eccentric guy. We were in premium economy because I'm not rich enough for business class yet, but I'm
Kinda.
too stupid with my money.
Okay.
I'm a professor. We get paid like shit for the amount of time we put in.
Nice.
And we're all in it together. Postdocs. I can't. I'm not allowed to complain to a postdoc.
No, please, no. Go
I learned
ahead
how
with
to
the
ride a
premium.
bike.
So I'm looking
Okay.
at you like drinking some champagne in the premium class. Go on. Yeah.
It's pretty cheap. It's champagne out of a bag. But this guy, he sits down next to me. He's a big guy, and he's talking, but it's kind of slurred, and I don't fully understand what he's saying. And then suddenly the shoes come off. His feet are up on the wall. Like, we had the exit row seats with a bit of extra leg room, and his feet are up on the wall. Mwah, beautiful feet. I mean, really, it wasn't something that I wanted to see. And you know, you're at that point, you're like, shit, I've got the next 14 hours of my life with this guy. But then, and then to top it off, he takes his phone out and he's like typing in really random numbers into his calculator. And while he's doing that, bro falls asleep. Like, he's got his phone, and he's just like, he's got 128 divided by 26, and he's like, and it was like artwork. I've never seen something so beautiful. But he left an impression. Other than that, he left an impression because he starts talking, and turns out that he used to be a professor. He was a professor in New Zealand. He quit the job because he had to provide for his family. He went into the mining sector in Perth, which is my hometown, and he got paid. Good for him. And he kind of went through all of the problems, both in academia and industry. Everything has its problems. And he said that even though I'm making good money, so on $500,000 a year, he misses academia. He misses the freedom. He misses a lot of what comes with it. And so it kind of led into this really interesting discussion about failure. All the things that have kind of gone wrong in his life, all the wrong steps that he made. And he kind of came out of it and he said, what I live by is one very simple sentence. Acceptance is the solution to all of my problems. And that was beautiful. I am the opposite of an inspirational person, but that stuck with me. 3 simple steps to living. Acceptance is the solution. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, you fail, but then I don't know, hopefully it's not the end of the world. I mean, that could be one form of failure, but assuming that's not the form of failure, just accepting it and moving on, right? If it's outside of your control, it's outside of your control. Get on with your life. That's
Yeah, but then you face reality. Like in my case, for example, there's a nice sentence from Emily Dickinson, like if you are not brave enough, go above your nerve, right? Which is kind of like I see acceptance there in the same way. Like you,
I know
the
that
only
Taylor Swift song.
the only thing that you can do in life is accept. I mean, just accept what is happening, right? But the problem is that sometimes life is real, right? So sometimes you just don't cope with it. Sometimes you just don't find your way of accepting things. So yeah, I don't know. Like for me in
and
this
we've
very
all, yeah.
moment, yeah, I have problems accepting like some of the things that I should accept because they're like this. But yes, I mean the goal is acceptance. It's like
So
I do it every morning in my meditation. It's not true. I don't meditate.
when you asked me how are you, I was like, oh man, you're my therapist now. But now I feel like I'm your therapist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is much more for me than for you guys, probably.
Split therapy.
No, I mean,
So,
you're right. Sometimes life just deals you a very shitty set of cards, and there's only so much you can accept before you're like, fuck everything. And I think we've all been there, right? Damn,
yeah.
that phase of life during COVID was rough. And there are so many times where I can't help but feel, that I perhaps regret taking this job because of the insane amount of sacrifice that it came with, both personal, financial, work-wise. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think I regret it, but at the same time, like I've made a set of decisions, and I'm privileged enough to be able to still have a roof over my head. Got some people, granted, 14 hours flights away, but they're still there. So I
Yeah.
accept what I've kind of the grave that I've dug. Not
Yeah.
really a grave, but I get you. Sometimes you can't accept. What do you do?
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
nap, go to sleep, watch anime.
Exactly. Or scroll Instagram until you're
Doom
lobotomized.
scroll.
By the way. Yeah. Anyway.
And then send Fabrizio every single meme that you come across.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this
Exactly.
is a thing we both do, I think.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, different memes.
yeah. I hope at this point, I hope so. Okay. So, what do I do? Something random from the center?
From the bottom.
Bottom. Okay.
You can.
Okay. If you could jump back in time to any
Yes.
lab of your choice, so to any laboratory of your choice, which one would it be and why?
The one that discovered anesthesia.
Is it?
I just want to have a nap. I woke up at 3:30 a.m. this morning, not because I'm a hyper-driven CEO, but because I just woke up at 3:30 a.m. in the morning. And wouldn't it be nice to not do that? No, shit. Whose lab would I go into? I mean, I feel like in the neuromorphic circles, the obvious answer is carbon mead, but let's not go there because I feel like we want to be quirky and unique.
You want to be quirky and unique. I said nothing.
Damn. Man, who is it? Louis Lepic, the dude who kind of discovered the leaky integrate and fire neuron?
I
He was,
remember.
Yeah, 1907. And maybe you don't remember because his paper was in French, but no, the dude had frogs. He got probes, and it was a time where you could do really odd experiments, and it was science. And peer review was like pretty open-minded to weird shit, and you could cite paper. You could cite things that we generally don't cite in engineering today. Like you could have a personal correspondence with anybody, and that is your citation. Like, my citation could just be personal correspondence Barack Obama, and people would be like, "Damn, he's cool." Yeah. He had a one-on-one. But no, he was probing frog legs. He was injecting the frog leg with a current, and he was coming up with a relationship between the amplitude and the time it took for the frog leg to kick, because it's thought, once you kick, then you've got an action potential being triggered in the motor neuron. But that's not why, like the science of it isn't why I'd want to join his lab. It's because after he was done with the frog, there's some conjecture that he cooked the frog and ate it. So if you're able to, I don't know, cheap food, that sounds good.
I mean, I was talking actually. I'm gonna ignore you. I was talking actually with Ralph ATN Comics. I mean, I'm kind of advertising my other podcast, and we were talking about we were listening to Carver Mead. There is actually go and listen to Carver Mead. We have the last episode, and I'm kind of jealous of the freedom that they had, right? Because we suffer from. No, like we have a freedom in academia, sure, yeah. But then if you just look into the academia world, right, we don't have so much freedom, right? Because we need to publish, we need to do stuff, we need to do mainstream stuff, otherwise they're not gonna get cited. So I'm kind of jealous of their freedom of really looking around and trying to explore and trying to understand things. So this is a thing that actually resonates a lot with me.
And the 90s were a glory age for VLSI, especially because it was a time where universities had access to what were bleeding edge technology nodes that could compete with whatever the hell the industry was creating. And that's kind of beautiful. Now, we absolutely don't have that. You need massive teams. I mean, there's a good reason for that. You need massive teams to be doing, sub 14 nanometer designs for the back end now. But I don't know, back then there was something kind of beautiful where information seemed to flow a little bit more freely despite the, I guess, lack of internet in a way.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's like give everybody access to this interconnected node of information, and then you don't use it correctly. It's weird.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's 23 minutes. So I think it's time for something.
It's the discomfort time.
I'm so scared.
It's the time when I am the one asking a question. Unfortunately for the other people on this side of the screen. And this is gonna be a technical one, of course.
Oh, okay, so I don't need to take my shoes off.
Okay. No, if you want, just DM later. Okay. Anyhow, so spiky neural networks, they don't work. Let's put it this way. Suppose you don't want to get to tenure. Suppose you don't want to have a full time job. Why should you ever use it?
Why should I have what, sorry?
Why should you ever use them?
Oh, I think that they have a lot of insight to offer. There's one in that under a particular set of scenarios, spiking neurons are basically just element-wise linear recurrent models. And element-wise linear recurrent models are state space models, and we know that state space models work really well for a lot of tasks now in a far more efficient manner than transformers. So it's not a case of everybody use spiking neural networks, right? I think I start a lot of my talks now with use your brain before you use spiking neural nets, because in many cases, they're not going to be optimized for your final task. But there are a lot of things that we have learned from spiking neural nets, and I could give you the math of it, but we're in a podcast where I thought that you wanted to get to know my personality, which now you're regretting, but here we are. But there are certain things in spiking neurons, and nothing to do with the spikes, but rather the internal dynamics of the neuron, where every neuron has a hidden state that doesn't get projected into a dense transition matrix, blah, 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 some other bullshit. But that stuff is really useful. And with spikes, okay, we've learned a thing or two about how activation sparsity can reduce memory accesses. It doesn't need to come in the form of spikes, but it could come in the form of a fine-grained mixture of experts. So Owen from DeepMind in Montreal, he recently just came to Telluride, and he gave a beautiful talk on a mixture of 1 million experts where you have a constrained number of activations that are being transmitted between layers. And that's not spikes, but it has some sense of dynamical sparsity in it. And provided you can map your memory in such a way and access that memory in such a way that exploits the method, then you have an incredibly compressed representation of whatever task you're trying to achieve. And spikes have taught us that we can potentially do things like that. That's nice. They have driven a fair bit of advances in asynchronous design hardware, and whether or not async is the way to go, I don't know. I don't think any of us know for sure. I know that there is skepticism that the asynchronous design community, your advisor said this. These are Luciano's words, not mine, but the async community, yeah.
I have a follow-up question on that. Like, how much learning can be avoided given that we have like these nice hierarchical architectures that are coming out with nice connections and so on and so forth? Like for my case, for example, I don't do so much learning, right? And if you look at the very early stages of V1 or whatever, the LGN, and then you have the V1 and everything is completely like handcrafted. You have like real cells that are detecting the edges, and there's not so much learning involved there. So I wonder how much we are actually using learning a little bit too much when we should solve something without learning, to leave learning for more complex stuff later.
So I could go either way. We could argue both cases. On the one hand, how did V1 and V2 come to realize that edges matter? How did they realize that structure matters? Now, do we know for sure that a newborn baby can detect edges, or do they get there several months in? I don't actually know the literature on that.
Yeah, several months. Yeah, I think so, because it's blurred. Everything is blurred at the very start, so they wouldn't see it. Yeah.
If that several months is the case, then V1, V2 are learning something. They're learning thanks to some handcraft. I don't want to say handcraft, but thanks to some evolutionary adaptation. But they are learning something. There is some sort of update going on. It is basic, but there is learning going on there. Perhaps very differently to what V5, etc. might be learning. What we are doing, on the other hand, back propagate everything. So if you do want a learning rule that does fit within biology, then maybe backprop doesn't make total sense.
We have them.
But
STDP.
What do you mean?
STDP. Come on.
That's my number one favorite learning rule. That's the only thing. STDP is all you need.
I think there is also another.
You're writing a book, right?
There is also another drug out there called SDSP, something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Guys, we need to go out from the discomfort zone, like discomfort time.
Come on, I only get this spot. I have to make the most out of it, especially with Jason.
But you should comment even others.
What STDP?
No,
SDSP
I don't want to bash on
MDMA.
LSD and STDP are my favorite learning rules. No, don't do drugs. That's what I want to say. But if I can nudge this back in a more technical direction, I want to say there was a phase where a lot of researchers were looking at STDP and trying to solve MNIST with STDP, building ASICs, spending $100,000 on a fancy chip that does STDP with MNIST. And I think that does stem from a bit of poor communication of research, right? You've got chip design groups that see, people are doing STDP. They say that it's much more effective than backpropagation, which we know that it's not, because they have two completely different objectives that are derived from two different, not even derived. I mean, backpropagation is derived. That is function optimization. STDP is a model of a biological observation. They are from two completely different things, right? It's really difficult to compare the two, but you can also make some arguments that there are parts of backpropagation that do resemble STDP. I did that in that SNN torch paper. I think there's a paper by Bengio that also finds some completely different type of likeness between STDP and backprop. So I think ultimately what insight we can gather from these learning rules that don't seem useful in the context of deep learning is that if we combine these small-scale microscopic observations of neuronal or synaptic dynamics it could be that we wrap them in something a little bit more global, like backprop, or at least a part of backprop, and use that kind of global vector to guide how the local updates are going to be modifying the system. So it's not one or the other. I think that there's insight to be taken from both. But SDDP on its own, yeah, okay. Sure. Solve MNIST if it makes you happy.
Fabrizio, are you happy?
And that's
or
me
can I
discuss papers.
I don't want to insult like a whole heap of people doing research, because it did take a lot of effort to do it in the first case.
we're gonna lose so many
I think
people
you are
from open
insulting them
neuromorphic.
even
From
more.
episode 1.
Yeah.
No one
So-
does it anymore.
Are you happy, Fabri?
I'm
With the
super
discomfort?
happy. I'm super happy.
Okay.
When he left the chair, it was the best moment of my day.
So I'm gonna pick a random card here. I'm gonna decide.
Well,
for
while
you.
you pick a card, but no, like seriously, we've got to be self-critical as hell, because every research community, it's not just the neuromorphic community, but every sub-research community can go into a full-on cult where you stop paying attention to anything happening outside of your community. And I mean, it's great, communities are nice, but then it can lead to some level of ignorance if you don't know what's practical and what state of the art is doing. And I don't know, I do encourage people to not just go to the conferences in your domain, but because there's going to be a point where you get really bored at those conferences because you have heard everything in some way, shape, or form again and again. But then I went to ISFPGA, and that was kind of refreshing. It was funny because all the other people that regularly went were really bored at that conference, but to me as a bit of a newcomer, it was like, hey, this is new, this is cool. So yeah, go out, go criticize yourself, figure out what's wrong with your work. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is important. Yeah.
I agree.
All right.
I agree.
Hit me.
Okay. Ready. Work should be flexible or not? You know that now we have smart working, we have we need to go to the office, but in your opinion, if you'd be the president of the world, work should be flexible or not?
Yeah. So as a surgeon, I think that my job should be remote.
5G.
No, it depends. Yeah, the obvious answer is that it depends. There are some jobs that don't need to be flexible, they can't be flexible. They really are inflexible. And some jobs that absolutely do demand a level of flexibility. Having said that, that example with surgeons, there is definitely a long period of time in which med students, residents, are being incredibly exploited, and they're being put onto shifts that are, I am not sure how they are legal, right? They're so long. You're putting doctors through a whole heap of sleep deprivation, which is absolutely going to compromise their decision-making abilities, their dexterity, whatever it is that matters in their jobs. So there is a level of flexibility that should exist, even for the surgeons. In terms of academia, yeah, it depends, right? I'm in my office right now. A lot of my job could be done remotely. I think having come through COVID, we know that, not for everyone, but for many people, staring at a screen for 18 hours a day for 2 years straight is painful. It is really, really exhausting. So a level of human interaction is really nice. It shouldn't be forced on us if it's not necessary. And I'm on subreddit, I'm on the anti-work subreddit, and I see people taking on jobs that say remote, and then total catfish. Their boss then says, "Oh, by the way, 8 days a week in the office." That's bullshit, right? But sometimes it's just a boss that's on a power trip. You don't want that. In my case, I like flexibility. I need flexibility to be able to think, to be able to create things. But yeah, shitty answer, but it's the truth, right? It depends.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to make people angry, but I think it's like wanting people to come every day with a certain number of hours is just a way of controlling people, because you actually can't manage them somehow. Because a person that works will be working everywhere. at office, at home, it's going to work anyway, right? So I'm kind of questioning like the big going to the office back from Amazon, and I don't know. I truly believe in flexibility, maybe because I'm too used to it. But I don't know. Yes, in my opinion, it shouldn't be forced, as you said. Yeah.
It is a difficult question. I think that people that are roughly our age, we have a way of thinking. We've been exposed to things that many other generations haven't been exposed to. And so it is very natural for our people to go in that direction and think. I think the other flip side, that if someone was to play devil's advocate, and it's not to say that I believe in it, but you could say that the capitalistic society of America has flourished as a result of milking the absolute fucking shit out of your workers. That's led to a thoroughly prospering economy at some cost. Many people are okay with it. Many people are not okay with it. I don't like the way that society has gone in terms of a 5-day work week what the catch is that a lot of that is to barely survive, right? I'm in a really lucky, fortunate position. I have one of the most stable jobs in the tenure track assistant professorship at the University of California. And despite all that, I can't afford a home here, right? It's a bit fucked up, right? It was just a case of time and place. And I've said this to other people before, and they have come back to me and said, "Oh, well, you're just placing too much emphasis on the importance of a home. You know, there's so many other things you could be exploring." Their point was, you can afford rent. That's great. And there are many people in Santa Cruz that can't even afford that, right? Like you said, where was I going with this? Probably nowhere.
This is so Italian, talking without knowing what you're saying.
Iran, Italy, similar.
Mamma mia.
But you just speak with confidence, and then it sounds like it's going somewhere, right? That's basically Italians, professors,
students.
Yeah.
No, it's I don't know.
But, Yeah, but I agree with you. And Fabri, interrupt us if you have anything to say. Yeah, really. So
I think we should all move to Texas. That's all I can say. And start working in a ranch.
I mean, yeah.
5 days a week, 8 hours.
Yeah.
Cleaning shit.
Yeah, I want to knit and sew all day. With my sewing machine.
We should talk about
I miss
somehow.
I do miss the days where I'm not emailing from the toilet, because otherwise I couldn't keep up with emails. I'm not alone. I say this because I know that I'm not alone.
I take Teams call from the toilet, so
I'm on the toilet right now. This is all a virtual background.
Nice. Okay, send it later in the DMs.
Okay. I leave you to that, guys. Choose. Probably this is your last card. So choose. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. The top one. Okay. Okay. What is the biggest? What is the biggest challenge facing scientists today? Your problem.
Let's put it on machine learning.
Can I? Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to go very bad.
All right. So, okay. So the fact that 99% of research is useless is probably the biggest challenge by proportion. I know that's a very skeptical take. A bunch of people will agree with me, but I will say that you need to have that 99% of useless research, because it takes that 99% to find that 1% that gets you to 3 nanometers, that gets you to 2.5 nanometers. There are a lot of fuck-ups on the way. But it does mean that 99% of people, basically in this massive circle jerk where they say, this is a problem in our field. However, we have solved everything except for everything. There is this salesmanship problem in that 99% of research where it's almost it's unacceptable to publish negative results. It leads to people being, quite frankly, dishonest and a bit truth-bending with the work that they're doing. It's sad. I get why people do it. I mean, fuck it. We've all done it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. How else do you get a job, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
a bit of an institutional problem. Yeah.
And the fun fact is that, you try to get, like another paper or another thing that you have done to just add another line in the CV that nobody reads. Nobody reads CV. So what the fuck are we all doing? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
That SNN torch paper was that felt like a massive risk because it was a lot of work for, I mean, what could have been very little return. I mean, sure, there's the Python library that's usable, and that's nice, but then I didn't know that it was going to be usable when I first started working on it. And then the paper itself was very honest. It at no point says that SNNs are the future. It says these are where it's potentially good for. These are the places where it might not make sense. This is where a whole heap of research is focused on. In my humble opinion, I do not know if that's going to be worthwhile. Here is where it may be underappreciated and maybe worth exploring a bit more. Saying that kind of shit, I don't know, reviewers pick at it. They say, oh, they said that this is a limitation, therefore I'm going to reject it based on the author being honest. I got lucky. I truly just got lucky. But many others do not. And then what happens? You obfuscate your research, and it's a shame, man.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I guess we can then, I mean, I could stay hours like this, but I guess we all need to eat. We have
you don't want to get to know me that well. You have already
no, right?
too
No,
much.
let's leave it for the next Telluride. No, not now. So I'm going with the very last question that we want to ask to all of our guests. It's if you can tell us now what's behind the scientist in your case.
Man, just a dude that has no idea what he's doing, but has gotten very good at having no idea what I'm doing.
I think
Also
this is the
because
best
there is
end.
absolutely no scientist.
Exactly, in the first place.
Just a bunch of really shit jokes to keep my mental health a little bit super threshold.
I'm thinking of all the editing that I will need to do. Like, oh my God.
So, first of all, thank you, Jason, for coming here and taking all this shit on your face. And we would really like to thank you for staying with us today.
No, thanks for having me.
Sorry.
Do you want to cut that out and try again?
No.
Because
we
I was
hope
supposed
you-
to say... Vabbè.
Sorry. We hope you will join us in the next one. Da-da-da-da-da-da. It's okay. Editing will work.